Plus.
Hello, welcome to WISSO Plus. I'm Mr. Quinn. Today we're going to look at word choice. Together we're going to work through a series of thinking and writing tools that are going to help you to grow your confidence, to make you better and more capable at analysing word choice. For the purpose of today's lesson, we will be talking only about descriptive words, nouns and adjectives, verbs and adverbs, verbs and adverbs, rather than functional language like connectives, but and the. The focus will be on descriptive language. It will be helpful for us to think about words as being like ideas. It will also be helpful for us to think of words as having consequences. At this point in time, you may be thinking to yourself, word choice? I just chose some words there and said them. And while you would be right in saying that, especially in the context of casual conversation when we choose words intuitively and naturally and quickly, if you were writing something down or saying something for a specific purpose, in order to create a specific effect, then you would choose your words. You would do this carefully and with some thought. So there is a difference between choosing words and choosing words. And today we're going to be looking at words and phrases that have been chosen. That have been chosen because they are ideas. That have been chosen because they have consequences. Different words can have different flavours, tones, shades, textures, volumes, emotions attached to them. They can have different consequences. So let's take a word like iron. Iron has a weight to it that a word like feather or gas doesn't have. Take a word like whisper and compare it to a word like scream. Those words have a different volume, and I'm not talking about how loudly you say them. They also have a different emotional resonance. They have different consequences. They are quite different ideas. So different words are different ideas. They have different consequences. And those couple of simple examples there demonstrate that. Different words have different connotations. Connotations. What's that? Well, I've been talking about textures and shades and consequences, and they have different words of being different ideas. We can sum all of that up quite simply into that single term, connotations. Connotations is what we call all of these associated ideas and consequences and qualities of words. We call them connotations. Connotations of words. Connotations are quite simply all of the other things that a word or phrase makes you think about. All of the things it's associated with. All of the things it's connected to. All of the other ideas that it has a close relationship with. And when we analyse word choice, we analyse connotations. I now want to speak to you about the thinking tool that we can use to think about connotations. We will once again use the very simple and the very humble plant pot. Now, if we think of the plant pot as being Now, if we think of the plant pot as having roots that come out of the bottom and stems and branches coming out of the top, that's going to be really useful to us. Let's ignore for just now what's coming out of the bottom and instead focus on these stems and branches that are coming out of the top. Now, as you know, when stems and branches emerge and grow out of the plant pot, they themselves split into further stems and branches and so on and so forth. They keep splitting and growing and splitting and growing. Now, if we think of these original stems or branches coming out of the top of the plant pot as being like the connotations of the word or phrase that's inside the plant pot, that's going to be really helpful to us. Now, these original connotations are going to have connotations of their own, and those connotations will have connotations of their own, and an almost unending network of language, which is really quite fascinating when you think about it. Maybe that's just a very English teacher thing to say. Sometimes connotations will double back on each other. Some words will have lots of connotations, some will have very few, some will go in directions that you wouldn't expect. Infinitely interesting. Now, for the purpose of this thinking tool, we're only going to be interested in that first tier, that first level of connotations, the original connotations that come out of the plant pot. That's the only ones that we're really interested in at this point in time. So let's take a word like iron, put it into the plant pot. Now, a couple of reasonable connotations of iron may be strong. We associate iron with strength. It's used to build things. Metal is, after all, a metal. And tough is a hard-wearing material. Now let's imagine then that word strong growing its own branches. A reasonable connotation of strong might be muscle. Another might be power. Let's take muscle. A couple of reasonable connotations of muscle could be fibre, blood, meat. But by this point we're getting quite far away from the plant pot. I mean, we're at meat and we started with iron. We're only really interested in that first level, that first tier, those original connotations. Those are the ones that we're going to use in our analysis. I think now would be a good time for me to demonstrate with a few simple examples on the page. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Using the plant pot model, please provide 3 reasonable connotations of each word. Now, we discussed a second ago iron, so rather than working through it again, I have already completed that one. We have iron here, the 3 connotations that we already discussed, and then some connotations of strong, and then some connotations of muscle, just to give you an idea of how it can just keep going and growing and splitting and branching. And what's that word again? Ad infinitum. There you go, that's some Latin. Ad infinitum. Forever. Now, I'm going to use a highlighting marker here just to highlight these 3 original connotations. This would be that first tier, that first level that I was talking about. As you can see there, those are ones that are relevant to what we want to. Those are the relevant ones. Those are the ones we'll use in our analysis. Now let's take feather. Feather. And instead of drawing a big plant pot, I'm going to simply draw a small one underneath, just to remind us what we're doing, and also as a little visual aid for yourself. We're going to have 3 connotations coming out of the top. Now, I think that we really do, I think it would be reasonable to say that feather, something we think of when we think of flight. So I'm going to put flight in there as our first connotation. Associated with that, I would say wind is something that we associate with feathers. And lastly, I think the word gentle is an idea that we associate with feather. Let's now take home. Put home here, and once again put in our little plant pot. Some shading there for the artistic types amongst you. Now, some reasonable connotations of home may be house, any people. Their home is a house. Not everyone, but I think it's a fair connotation. It's a reasonable connotation. We often associate home with family. Family in there, and home undoubtedly is something we associate with safety. We were asked for 3 reasonable connotations of each word, and using the plant pot model, what we have done is we have provided 3 connotations of each word. 1, 2, 3. First here. Yeah, we've got them. Terrific. As you can see, that thinking tool is incredibly useful for helping us to think of the connotations of the words or phrases that are inside the plant pot. Please remember, complete sentences, whole sentences can't go into the plant pot. We will address sentence structure in another WISSO Plus video. Let's have a look now at some examples where we have to extract the language from a sentence to put it into the plant pot. Let's take a gamer, and we'll call that gamer Jamie. In the first example, Jamie is a competitive gamer. Now, some connotations of competitive might be, if we're putting it into the plant pot, passionate, energetic, and aggressive. Jamie certainly seems as if he is all of those things. In the second example, Jamie is a chill gamer. This might suggest to us that Jamie is relaxed, is cool, doesn't take things too seriously. Jamie certainly seems in the second example to be those things. So what do we need now that we have that thinking tool and we know how to use it? That's right, we need a writing tool. We have the thinking tool, but we need the writing tool. Now, the writing tool for word choice is really straightforward. It'll help us to format our answers on the page. It has 3 parts. Quote the word or phrase, suggests, and the analysis of the connotations. Always remembering to link it back to the question. Let's see how that looks on the page. Right, let's see what we've got here. Now, I've already written out the sentences here beside example 1 and example 2. We know what the word that we are analysing is in each case. The first is competitive, the second is chill. I need to highlight it, I'm going to do it anyway. Competitive and chill. And I have repeated the steps from previously with those words just to save some time. We have a question at the bottom here. How does the writer use word choice to convey Jamie's attitude towards gaming? Well, we've got everything we need to answer a question like that, and we're going to now use our writing tool. We'll use this area here. Eventually what we want to happen is for this part here, our thinking tool, to be an internal process. But like in maths, when you show you're working, starting out with this, it might not be a bad idea to simply to write it out long form like this. I don't think there's much harm in it when we're practicing. Let's use that writing tool then in this area here. The word competitive, and I'm going to use quotation marks because it is a quote. I have also used them down here. First part, second part is suggests that Jamie is an energetic, passionate gamer. There we go, and we've used two of the three connotations. For the second example, it's the exact same. So, the word chill suggests that Jamie has a relaxed attitude towards gaming. It also suggests that he is cool and doesn't take things too seriously. Now, as you can see in this second example, I have used all of the connotations and my analysis is a little more developed. This would be a lower resolution answer, and this would be a higher resolution answer. Now, both of the answers use the correct thinking and writing tools, but this one is a little more higher resolution than this one. And ideally, what we want to be aiming for as we progress is for answers that look like this. So let's recap on what we've learned in today's video. When we analyse word choice, we analyse connotations. Connotations are those consequences that certain words and phrases have. We think about them using the plant pot, and we format our answer. We format our answers using the writing tool. Quote suggests analysis of connotations, always remembering to link it back to the question. Now, these thinking and writing tools are going to be useful to you at all levels of your secondary education. It's just the level of vocabulary and language will become more sophisticated and a lot more challenging as you work through secondary school. Hope you've learned something from the video today. Connotations of words. And enjoy whatever else it is that you've got going on today. And I'll see you next time for more. WISSO Plus.
Thinking tools and writing tools that you can use and trust for school, for life, for work and fun. Welcome to WISSO Plus.